Hello and welcome to day 94 of 100 Days of Tonalism. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and the study that we're doing today is Hillside by John Francis Murphy. And this is going to be our last Murphy, folks, because this is 7 more days until we hit the end of the 100 days that we started so very long ago. And don't mind telling you, it's been a lot of work, but it's been a labor of love since I've done it, and really I consider this whole thing to be a big part of my education as an artist, and I'm trying also to help share tonalism with the world, and I know some of you are definitely getting something from it, so that's awesome. We've been, with all the last Murphys we've been doing, I've been reading from the book A History of American Tonalism, 1880 to 1920 by David A. Cleveland, and which is an amazing book. If you find this tonalism stuff interesting, go buy that book. You won't regret it. I don't care where you are in the world or what you have to pay. It's an awesome book. Anyway, we're on page 218 right now. That's where we left off with our last Murphy, and I'm just going to pick up from there. What is surprising about Murphy's work after 1900, given all the accolades and popular appeal for charm and serenity and low-toned beauty, is how much it had evolved, incrementally but always intelligently and tellingly. And not just in the years before 1900, but over the ensuing decades, how radically simplified it became. How given over to the purest expressive power. A Murphy landscape is always recognizable as a Murphy, but rarely does the artist's work suffer repetition. Although Murphy painted his share of tame pot boilers, he was free enough from financial worry and confident enough in his talent to paint as he saw fit. Letting the art world follow his lead, or not, his buyers were unsophisticated. Murphy's late style of spare essentials, personal symbolism, and improvisations on a chosen theme is reminiscent of the way in which Ines worked late in life. The great raging expression of Ines is in Murphy translated into exquisite variations on an autumnal theme, a Bach Scylla suite to Ines's Beethoven symphonic pastoral. In addition, the late work represents a culmination of all that had gone before, the logical extension of Murphy's predilections for the telling note or stark and dramatic reed. It is the last 20 years of his life. In the last 20 years of his life, the artist moved inexorably toward an iconic symbolism that, even in light of his earliest paintings, seems to always lurk just below the surface. Murphy, a retiring sort, always happy as fleeing the bustle of New York for weed wild, painted with an innate sophistication that was often not immediately evident. His letters to his wife portray a very private man, leery of crowds and public duties, yearning constantly for the silence and solitude of the Catskills. He was not immune from the currents of international modernism at the turn of the century. He sat on innumerable exhibition juries and was considered a fine and fair judge of art. He read deeply and widely. His unconscious demons, especially the poverty of his youth, were assuaged in the landscapes he knew and loved. The barren fall landscapes of the Catskills were kind of an emotional palimpsest upon which he was forever writing another chapter. Here too, amid rocky framed-out hills, he indulged his skill as a consummate craftsman, with meticulously prepared and pastoed grounds, pushing his surface textures to gain new qualities of expression, much as Blakelock had done in the 1890s. As he wrote to his wife in 1900 from the Catskills, "I have just commenced to daub on 1 or 2 canvases, getting them ready, you know, that with me a well-prepared canvas is a picture half done." The history of Murphy's last 2 decades, as Elliott Clark has pointed out, was a contrast winnowing of his art to the pithy core, to purer and purer expressions, until the hand of the artist was so embedded in his art as the stones harbored in the hard scrabble soil of Weedwild. In comparison with the earliest pictures, the key is heightened and the range of values diminished. The chiaroscuro and the concentration of light at the focal point, so characteristic of the early work, is replaced by an evenness of lighting and a diffuse radiance. The atmospheric envelopment is carried to the highest degree of unity consistent with subtle variation. The oneness of effect is expressed without focal concentration. And the emphasis is given by the decisive accent, more so than the descriptive detail. Thus there is a certain concentration of the vision produced more by the arrangement of mass and the calculated spotting of foreground objects than by the more photographic tightening of the focus by means of defining detail. And like I said, we're getting close to the end of the video. Hey, thanks for joining us for day 94. And we're going to have like 6 more days to go. So join us tomorrow for day 95. And if you'd like to see more of my work, go to landscapepainter.co.nz and look at my tonalist paintings. Meanwhile, we'll see you tomorrow, and stay out of trouble.